Welcome, welcome, welcome to Nice Try for the Fans. This is me, Elle, joined as usual by the co-host with the most,
What do you do?
Timothy Joshua Smith. We are ready for you for another jam-packed session because not only are we previewing a packed weekend of Rugby World Cup action, we're also in the middle of it all because there have been some midweek clashes and we're going to get stuck in right away because, of course, the first of those results is from Wednesday's match where Italy took on spirited Uruguay, and halftime it was looking like a fairy tale. But Timothy, your men, your boys, they came out in the end. The first half score was 17-7 in favor of Uruguay, and then Italy was like, okay, you've had your fun, now we're playing. Is that what happened?
Watching that first half, it seemed like you said, a fairy tale. Although it seemed like Italy were playing the villains or the protagonists and the antagonists, so they were definitely victims of their own demise. And I think in the second half they sorted things out. Uruguay, very plucky, just a team that it's nice to see.
Yes.
It would be nice to see them get sort of serious arrangements made for a professional league or something to move into that professional sphere, because clearly there is an appetite for the game, and I really enjoyed how they went about things. It's like small things that came up, and Italy, being a more seasoned outfit, definitely took advantage, and then they just didn't have the wherewithal to withstand the onslaught for 80 minutes.
Last time around, when they showed up the way they did against the French B team, you did say that that's the best they can play and they can't, sustain it. And I think that might have been the key there in that second half. And I guess with professional leagues and professional team setups, conditioning comes in, and that might be something that they're lacking. And having such tough matches going in, that also played a part, would you say?
I actually consider their performance against France to be a bit more a peak performance from them, because France's second team I would still probably take over Italy's first. And so they really gave a good showing there. Against Italy, they had a stage where they were playing against 13 men and couldn't take full advantage of it. And so that's sort of where the lack of experience comes in. Hopefully the investment will pan out for them and they will have more exposure to these vital, scenarios and moments.
Uruguay continues, though, to steal the hearts of the French and the neutrals in the crowd. Their captain, of course, leading courageously, and his family on the sidelines, just tugging on the heartstrings. It's what these tournaments are about, those stories. We saw Japan doing this years ago. A team that's just historically the whipping boys, that's, what they get called. They're just not moving out of that. And again, they faced really tough opposition from the get-go. I'm talking about Namibia, our neighbors. Last week we saw them up against a mixed New Zealand side and they had no answer. And they had literally zero answer on Thursday against the hosts, which I saw a tweet when the team was announced and it was this full strength French side going up against Namibia. Someone tweeted and said, please alert the United Nations. Now, there's a lot of talk about South Africa's 7-1 being morally incorrect and against the spirit of the game. Nuh-uh, I think the French fielding such a strong side against Namibia, that is morally incorrect and it's against the spirit of the game. That was before the game. Now that it's been played and they've beaten Namibia 96 points to 0. That's not even the biggest takeaway. They fielded the full strength side, including player of the year, the greatest player, of recent times, Antoine du Pont, and he was rushed to hospital. Do we go, told you so? No, because he's fantastic and we don't want to see anyone get hurt, especially in a match like this where he didn't even have to play. Just what are your thoughts around fielding that side? I mean, the match, there's not much to take out because it was a one-sided affair, but then also such a high-cost injury.
Yeah, I'm sure they would have it any other way, but the reality of it is that, you know, rugby is a risk. There's always risk involved, and the management team will try and manage that risk as they can. But at the end of the day, I think the challenge that was, you know, the reason for the injury was a high tackle, so it's illegal first of all, but you can't game plan for these situations. And I think France, Aldi said that, you know, you're caught between a balancing act of having your players be fit and not rusty, as well as protecting them in some measure. And just on the other side of the coin, and to talk about rust being a very vital or a real concern, is like these minnow teams that are getting smashed and, you know, getting record scores put on them, especially Namibia.
Yes.
Namibia have only played 7 tests since the last World Cup.
My goodness.
And so having those combinations and having those things set in the team, it's very vital to have a cohesive game plan, and that's a real risk. And I think obviously it's been very unfortunate. Like you said, we don't want to lose any star players. We want the best to be playing. You know, on the optimistic side of things that I've seen reports coming out is that you only miss 2 to 3 weeks. I would hope it would be on the shorter end of that. Thomas Lavanini, I've been reading, has had a similar injury and managed to recover. They have confirmed that he doesn't require surgery, so hopefully, you know, they'll put in some overtime, and he definitely will be getting the best care. So we hope that it's not a massive loss for the game, but ultimately rugby always has this risk.
Yes. Well, the French did get Cyril Bailey back for that Namibian match, so I guess this was a good time for him to get some rust off. And then, of course, Jonathan Dante, who was big loss for them going into the World Cup, he returned as well. Just some other injury updates in Pool A. Brody Retallick fully recovered, and Frizzell, who I thought would be a playmaker and a star this World Cup, he has not yet returned. Do you think they're going to miss him, especially come knockout week? He was standout for them during the Four Nations and the Rugby Championships and Bledisloe Cup, you know, the mid-year matches.
Yeah, he was vital, at least in that particular test in Auckland against the Springboks. Very dominant. Like I said in previous shows, they really miss that doggy haunt character, so he would definitely add some bite to that pack. And obviously Brody also being fit is a massive boost for them. I think they're still lacking on that side of things, but things are moving in the right direction. I know Ethan de Groot has now got his suspension, 3 weeks, so that's a miss. But I think once Frizzell gets back, we're not sure what sort of condition that, but might be a little bit too late for them to recover. But I'm happy to see, some of the better players becoming available.
Now, matches coming up this weekend. The first one is Friday, Argentina and Samoa. I feel like that could be one of our topics. Now, Argentina, oh man, they're blowing hot and cold. And Samoa, they're just so unpredictable. So it's two unpredictable teams who've had some exposure to great structures, great competition. This could go any way.
I feel like I'm now a Samoa fan.
Oh, good.
Just because I've been betrayed by Argentina. So I feel like I just need to support Samoa. Unfortunately, they also missed Lima Sopoaga's been ruled out with injury. For the most part, they obviously, just going on week one's results, they put up a more convincing performance. For sure. And they haven't had as long a break, so hopefully that stands them in good stead. Obviously, Argentina played 2 weeks ago. I think this, like you said, could go either way. I guess my heart is for Samoa, but Argentina, if you had to ask me 2 weeks ago, I would have said no, Argentina. Definitely.
I can't see past that, is what you probably would have said.
Yes. Crows were being eaten. But I do think Samoa have got a really interesting team. They've got some strong players, obviously with the new laws as well. Christian Lealefano looked good in that first game.
Yes.
Nice to see him. Also, amazing story just in terms of his life. My favorite player of Samoa, Theo McFarland.
Oh.
Yeah, he's quite the character. Yeah, I just like the way he plays. So hopefully he gets some shine. I know Argentina should have the more dominant pack, but we'll see how that works out. But very exciting match.
Oh yes, and also should Samoa win, they'll all but secure their spot behind England in Pool D and then go through to the knockouts, and that would be an absolute delight.
Yes.
Having the Pacific Islanders in the second round. So, that's mouth-watering. The weekend. There's some interesting matchups. Let's just quickly give an overview and then we'll get stuck in. On Saturday, Georgia up against Portugal, England against Chile, and we'll chat a little bit about England in a bit, and then of course the big one, the only one.
The biggest one.
Yes, this is the final, really. It's the World Cup final. South Africa and Ireland. That's the pick of the entire weekend for me. And then Sunday, Scotland, Tonga. Should be tough as well. Interesting. Wales and Australia.
Yikes.
That's going to have a knock-on effect in that Pool C, and that's how we end the weekend. So a very decisive way to bring it to a close.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have much to say about Georgia, Portugal, but I do want to talk about some news from the England camp. Of course, Owen Farrell is back, and he's back. They've moved George Ford out of the way. Are you surprised? Is Eddie Jones still over there? Like, what is this madness?
Yeah, I mean, what can we say? I also talk about the weeks. It seems like it's feast and famine from one week to another, but that's just the way the scheduling is panned out. But Ford and Farrell, wow, it strikes me as them deciding to throw away a potential chance at this World Cup. Ford was playing, for the most part, probably the in-form fly-off in the competition.
Yes.
Fortunately, Mane's only played one game, but Ford has been marshalling, really giving them a serious consideration.
Yeah.
Their pathway to the knockouts.
Yes, because he looks like a World Cup fly half.
Yeah. So I'm not entirely sure what the reasoning is for that, and it strikes me as something that is very short-sighted, to give up a potential quarterfinal, semi-final berth.
Yeah, do you think they also think that this is a low-risk enough match where they can give Farrell a run and give him a chance to get into the groove of things? They're resting Ford. They're not demoting him.
Obviously, the natural thing for me would be to move Farrell to 12, right? And have Ford in charge of that. Yeah, and then you still have the flexibility to have a utility back, like a daily, maybe on the bench, and so you can cover multiple options. So that's where I would say you're missing the Rasnab effect to have the multiple position
there's
players.
no innovation here.
No. So we'll see how Farrell gets on. I mean, Farrell's not he's not a player that is not going to contribute.
For sure.
He's a good player, but given what you had, I think you're messing with if it isn't broke, don't fix it.
Yes, it's a winning formula. Then moving on to Sunday's matches, Scotland, Tonga. Scotland has had a weird schedule. Do you think this has an impact because Tonga they're ready? They've been bruised, they've been a little beaten, but they're firing.
Yeah, this should be a relatively straightforward match for Scotland. They had a break, and then they've got like a flurry of matches within the span of 2 weeks. So they'll need to manage their players very wisely. We know that Van Russell was bruised against the Springboks. So they might need to, as soon as that win is secure, not have a DuPont situation happening to them and get the replacements going. So I think they'll try to start that game very fast, grab the bonus point, and then
get out.
Game management essentially. But that should be a relatively straightforward game. Tonga, for me, even though they've probably shaken off the rust, just did not look anywhere close to a team that could challenge. I'm looking at someone like Portugal. I know we just we just mentioned the match, but I
Yeah.
think they might be a potential upset
Ooh,
against Georgia.
Georgia.
Just because there's some really innovative, rugby that they do
Yes.
are playing. So Georgia, I think, will probably try and keep it tight, but I think that might be something to look forward to. And I like the fact that, these minnows are playing for automatic qualification.
Yes.
So the same thing with Uruguay and Namibia. That will probably be, a final in their eyes.
Yes.
Yeah, Scotland should come through relatively easy and set up another, that mouth-watering clash at the end of the pool.
But one that is high stakes is the one that we're ending with. The latest match on Sunday, Wales and Australia. Who would have thought? Well, me, because I always believed in Fiji. This is a proper decider. They're calling it a fatal scenario for Australia. That's the kicker over there. We have two coaches who are under tremendous pressure. Eddie Jones, his situation is quite interesting. And then Gatlin exiting, coming back, trusted to kind of take Wales all the way, and now look.
I think this will be definitely the definitive blow for obviously Australia's chances. And so there might be some fight left in them. I'm hearing whispers, or I saw some potential remarks on the team. Might be that Donaldson's moving to 10, Kellaway coming in at 15, which I thought Kellaway should have always been in the team.
Oh.
Yeah, so I think that's a step in the positive
Yeah.
direction. Although they are missing, Skelton seems to be a risk. And Tupou as well. And so those are two massive players. Skelton in particular, I mean, he's been in really good form the last 2 seasons for La Rochelle. And just what he brings to their maul defense and their maul attack. And he's really taken on that leadership role. So that'll be a massive miss. I know they also had one of the youngsters, the uncapped youngsters, also ruled out with injury. So there's quite a bit of disarray going on in the Australian camp. Wales seems to be way more settled. They know who they are. They've been there, done it. To an extent. I mean, we were a penalty away from them being in the final, and I'm sure most people would probably say they had a better game than us in 2019, and they probably would have beaten England. So,
Even 2015.
yeah, they might be looking at, obviously they're led by stalwarts in Liam Williams, Dan Bigger, Halfpenny, so those guys would definitely want to capitalize on this opportunity, and for them it will be a statement. They've kind of gone under the radar. They didn't have a blistering performance against Portugal, but they got the job done. And so if they can see, I think it's a week of mini finals. If you win this, you really put yourself in good stead. So I think it will be a cracking game. Might be very tight.
Do you think Wales is coming out on top?
I think on the balance of things, Wales do have a better forward pack.
I really do hope so.
I don't want to see Australia in any knockout, especially for South Africa. So I would take Wales, even though that might also be a tough game. But we know we have the horses to take Wales on. So it's more of a known quantity. But yeah, I think Wales should take it.
I really hope so, and also for the sake of Fiji, who I imagine they'll be gathering and watching with bated breath. And then, shall we, the match of the weekend?
Oh, we shall.
South Africa versus Ireland. Talking points such as the 7-1 split, and this time it's thought out. It's not a last minute like the New Zealand 7-1 split was a few weeks back. This is one where it's okay, it's worked before, so we're doing it again. Then of course we're looking at some excellent matchups. We have the experience of Johnny Sexton going up against Amani Libbok, who is owning the number 10 jersey and also making a name for himself just after that first match against Scotland. That's one of the matchups that's getting people excited. But then also we have the packs. I read somewhere that people are saying, well, South Africa starting lineup and their bomb squad isn't enough for just one pack of Ireland. Oh my goodness. Why do people talk like this before a match? Like, where's the respect?
Some of the coverage has been very lopsided either way. We're talking about a bomb squad. 7-1. You can close up. It's a done deal. On the other side, apparently Ireland are a pack-producing monster that can last for 80 minutes, and they're just going to run South Africa rugged. And Sexton is somehow...
He's a genius.
Yeah. And, respect to all the players involved. There's various levels of accomplishment. I like Rassi's comment where someone said, Ireland is the Springboks bogey team. And then Rassi responded by saying, well, the World Cup is Ireland's bogey competition.
Oh, snap. Oh, that's rough.
Yeah.
It's true, though.
Definitely. But get some ice for those wounds. And it's going to be a really interesting matchup. And I think the 7-1 is something that's obviously taking a lot of the focus. Like you said, there's various matchups that are intriguing. You have Mani versus Sexton. And for my money, I was a bit more afraid of Finn Russell than I am afraid of Johnny Sexton.
Yeah, but you feel a type of way about Johnny Sexton. Ireland's
his all-time points.
Yeah, all-time, yeah.
It seems like they are really handling him with kid gloves for some reason. He scored a try, or scored 3 tries, and they're talking about him as a try machine.
Oh!
And I'm thinking... We are not Tonga. We are not Romania. Look, they within their rights to feel confident. This team has produced some really good results. First tour victory in New Zealand, and then we need to reflect on what New Zealand currently is. There's just a lot of things that will be confirmed after this match, I think. And fortunately, I think for the Springboks, there is less pressure because we've come through the Scotland test. And so I think they can play around. Not that I think, we are playing with a sense of abandon. But there is, the opportunity to mix and match, see what can work, see what works in a high-level test scenario. Because Ireland are number 1 in the world.
Are you saying we are being disrespectful with our 7-1 because it is a huge risk and we're going for it? Because of what you've just said. We've come through Scotland, so we have a little more freedom for experimentation and mixing things up. So we are actually in our setup, in who we're fielding. We're not talking the big game the way they are, but we're talking it through these actions.
Potentially. I think we shouldn't discard that out of hand. Obviously, the talk coming out of the camp is massive respect for Ireland.
Yes.
No, it's, we felt like this is the way that we want to go about it. I think the scenario and the context allows for that to be a possibility, and I don't think the coaching team will let that opportunity slip through their hands, especially because it could be of the intensity that looks to knockout rugby.
Yes.
So it worked in our, let's say, quarterfinal in our group. Now we're more confident about implementing it in knockouts. But there is a risk, obviously, with injuries.
For sure.
I did read something about how many backline players get injured per 80 minutes, and it's under 1 for the last 4 years or so.
Good thing we have 1.5 on the bench.
And another thing to consider, they also have to plan now with Pollard being in the squad. So it's really something that I think they are using to the full extent. In my opinion, should be success, but I'm not going to predict.
It's not a prediction, it's just an observation.
Yes.
I've always been a huge fan of the Irish, the late 2000s, when they were doing really well in their hemisphere, in their competitions.
Yeah.
They were dominant, and they always have that spark come World Cup here, but it's almost like they peak just a little bit too soon, and then they let themselves down like they did against New Zealand in the last World Cup. Every time the rugby world kind of goes, this is it, this is their time, this is their time. That said, South Africa are just on this trajectory, and their attitude towards each match, the innovation mixed with who they are and how they bring it together, just how they plan and prepare for all these scenarios. We saw how they handled the conditions in their last game. I'm okay with Ireland being so confident and not wary. I'm really looking forward to this match, and it is a curtain raiser for the final. And sadly, the way the pools and the draw has gone, these are the kinds of matches we're getting, and we might not even get something of this intensity come final.
Yeah, the quality is, what is it, first versus second? Where I mean, it's unlikely that you're going to get a repeat of something of this magnitude.
Yeah.
A analogous game would probably be the France-New Zealand game. And that as a spectacle wasn't great.
No, this is going to be it.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Just touching on your comments, I'm happy that Ireland are confident. Yeah. I don't want them to. Obviously, the Springboks released the team in quite earlier, and Ireland they were expecting Ireland to maybe adjust their plan, but Ireland went with what has been working for them, so I'm happy. And I'm also happy because, should the Springboks beat them, they played their game and they've all found one thing. I don't want the excuses of, we had to adjust or whatever. But I did see a funny comment. You're talking about, how we plan for contingencies, the Springbok coaching team. And they said someone is going to, Jacques might come out and say that Kwak has been training at centre, in the lineman camp in 2016 or something like that. So obviously it's in jest, but I think there's some truth to it. Definitely.
I've seen him.
Yeah, and it just goes to show how the coaching team have been able to broaden the skill sets of all of our players. That it's not inconceivable that we can do this. And like I said, the approach that the Springboks are taking is this of there is a game plan. It's not as if we can plug and play, with any players, but the players that they have brought since 2019, those are plug and play because the system is what is of prime importance. And so I'm looking forward to it. This is the culmination of, we'll say, 5 years of work.
Oh yes, so much work.
I think the coaching team are also, licking their lips at going up against what I think is also one of the top coaching teams.
Yes.
Paul O'Connell has done some really good work with their lineouts. There was a really interesting analysis done on Ireland's defending and their set play and how to beat South Africa. They were looking at the previous match. So it was really interesting to see how they managed us there. Although I think that game in particular was closer. I mean, it was close, 1916, but it was closer in the actual game. Ireland probably feel like they had the balance of the play, but after I watched that game, I really was very confident on the Springboks. And then we have the 7-1. I'll put my neck out there and say, if we win, it's going to be something it's not going to leave doubt. Ben O'Keefe will also play an important role, but he's been a good ref. Hopefully he stays out of the limelight.
Please.
You don't want anything to be soured by a ref,
I just want rugby to win.
Definitely. I think it will win.
And this is a great opportunity for rugby to be on display at its finest. I'm also especially excited for every loose ball, because while people are looking at the 7-1 split, we have like 3 fetches. It's like, okay.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Especially the way the Irish are treating ruck. So
so we might see some blistering ruck speed in order to counter that. And that's the sort of thing that's so intriguing about this match. Like, Ireland, do they kick more? They try and run our backline ragged by having them turn consistently. Obviously, Ireland have more replacements on their backline. So do they go that route, or do they try and front up? I mean, I wouldn't recommend that. And
they need a lot more lights for their coaching box, because which way are you gonna go?
And then when do they bring on their replacements? Because I think that's going to be a vital thing in response to the box squad.
Yes.
And do we have it as a box squad that comes in wholesale, or do we piecemeal it? All of these things will be answered in this match, and I haven't been excited about a match like this So it's probably the
Delicious.
British and Irish, like the third test. It's sort of that magnitude. And there are some guys, obviously, that represented the Lions, so they will be eager to right those wrongs.
Well, we're excited. We hope you're excited. That match is local time, 9 p.m., South Africa versus Ireland. It's going to be the match of the weekend, but of course there's lots of other action, and we hope that you will be enjoying all that's on offer. Now, because that's such a big match, we're not going to be looking at our all-time greatest number 8 this week, but do join us next time, because I think of the loose trio, this is probably the easiest, for me at least. Any hints?
I might have to go and reflect on some of the previous
Okay.
teams.
Okay.
I think there might be some.
You could go look in the previous teams and you'll find the same person. Because he is, from another time, another planet.
Yeah.
His home planet. Anyway.
I see where you're going with
You
this.
see where I was going. Yes, so that will be in our next episode. And of course, we will be reviewing all of these matches as well. Thank you so much for joining us. And we do hope to hear from you. Find us on Twitter, comment wherever you're listening to the podcast. That includes YouTube as well. We'd love to hear from you and chat some more about all things rugby, all things Rugby World Cup. Timothy, a great pleasure.
Thank you. Looking forward to reviewing these matches and hoping to get some of your thoughts.
Until next time, this is Nice Try for the Fans.